So, on today's video, we're going to be going through the process of lining and wallpapering a hallway. So first thing you're going to want to do after prepping up the walls is to make your plumb line. If you're lining horizontally like I am now, you want to make sure you've got a straight line going all the way to wherever the paper is going to be. I'm just using a laser level and a spirit level as well. The first line is very important. You have to make sure it's plumb for the rest of the paper to go on to. Just sanding down any bumps and any bits of filler that need it. After this, you want to make sure that you get rid of any dust. This will cause bubbles if not, and you don't want that on your paper, on your final finish. And this is just me pasting the lining paper. I've cut 3 lengths, measured and cut 3 lengths for the wall. The reason I've got the 3 lengths on the table at the same time is it's a little trick the paperers do. What I'm doing is putting the paste on one piece of paper, and any overlap that overhangs, it's going onto the next sheet of paper. This saves mess going onto the table. You don't want any paste going onto the table, otherwise it'll go onto the front of your paper and ruin your finish. This saves a bit of time, so what I'm doing is making the one piece, leaving that to soak, and onto the next piece. By the time I'm finished the third and final piece, the first piece that I pasted won't be long ready to go on the wall, and by the time I put that one on, the next one will be ready, and so on and so forth. And you're probably wondering why I'm folding them like that. This is called booking. Basically, it's called booking because it looks just like that, the pages of a book. And there's actually a very important reason why we're doing this, which we'll demonstrate in a bit once I start putting the lining paper on. So as you can see here, I've got all the pages in my hand like that, and we're just putting the lining paper on one page at a time, making sure it's in line with the plumb line, as you can see there. And just going to put that on, smooth it out. There's a little light switch there that I need to cut around. I'm going to do that now. Now as I'm putting this on, what I'm going to do in a little bit, once I'm done smoothing this line, is I'm going to cut around this corner piece here, because the thing about wallpaper, when it goes around a corner, it's not completely straight. A wall corner won't be completely straight. So it'll basically make your wallpaper go down the way, up the way. It won't be plumb anymore. So when you go around a corner, whether it's internal or external, you've got to make a new line. I'll actually demonstrate how to do this with a patterned paper in a little bit. So as you see, just cutting down the edges, all the excess, and then after that, the next piece will be ready. This will be a bit simple because there's no light switches to cut around, but same premise. Line it up with the next sheet of paper, smoothing that out. Same thing, cutting the corner, making sure that's plumb, moving out all the bubbles, and then onto the next corner. And then once that's done, onto the next sheet of paper, and so on. And as you can see, it's already looking like a brand new wall. This wall was it was old plaster and it was full of bumps and that, but with a bit of lining paper, it just makes it look brand new. It just gives it a new slate, and this is just going to give the patterned wallpaper a good base to go on to. So this is me just on the patterned wallpaper. It's the same premise. You just make your plumb line in the middle of the wall, and then just build all the rest of your papers off of that. So right now, this is me just demonstrating how to make a new plumb line. Now, the paper does look straight on the camera there, but when you stick it up against the laser level, like I've got there, it's completely plumb at the top, but then as it goes to the bottom, the laser level goes out a bit. Now, this will warp the paper. If I try and build off of this, it won't. end well, basically. Your first line that the rest of the paper builds on has to be completely plumb. It's very important. So I'm just putting on a new piece basically, and just making a brand new plumb line and just blending it in with the rest of the paper. So I'm just cutting along, doing a double cut there, removing the old paper, and then putting a new sheet on. And this new sheet will be completely straight and it'll blend in with the rest of the paper. I know it doesn't look like a big difference, it just looks like I put on the same piece, but this is very important with wallpaper, especially patterned. Now this is paste the wall wallpaper that I'm going to be working with, so I measure out 2 or 3 lengths and I paste the wall as I'm going, and then you can just put it on as you're going. Make sure you got your scissors, make sure you got your Stanley knife ready to cut. Keep it in line. Find your pattern. I'm just looking at all the different doors and buildings to find one that matches. Put it onto the align first. Make sure you got the pattern right. And I'm just cutting it just so I don't have to wrestle with the full sheet. So what I like to do is get the seam line going in first and then put it in that way. Work my way out. Cut the top. Cut the bottom. And there you go. And then on to the next one. And because I pasted that wall a minute ago, 2 or 3 lengths, I can just move on to the next piece and just go on. This is why I love working with paste the wall wallpaper. You can just crack on with it. You don't need to wait for all the other sheets to soak. You just paste the wall 2 or 3 lengths at a time and then just whack it on. And this paper here was Casa Deco, and this is actually so far one of the best wallpapers I've worked with. The seam lines when I put it on just became completely invisible. And this last bit here, very important. As you're putting the paper on, you want to be cleaning the glue, any excess glue off your seams. We definitely don't want to ruin the finish on this paper. This is the finished result of the lining and papering. It's just completely transformed the hallway. The customers told me that they chose this wallpaper because it reminded them of Venice. But after a little bit of investigation, we found out that the buildings in the wallpaper are actually French. And I'm just demonstrating here how good this paper is. With my finger, I'm pointing to where the seam line is where the 2 wallpapers meet. And you actually can't see the seam line. It was just completely invisible. Like I said, one of the best papers I've worked with. Just went on a treat. Seam lines became invisible. Customers were very happy with the finish, as was I. So it's another job well done.